Hey guys, I decided to do my presentation on twin development. I chose twin development because I am a twin. Unfortunately, my twin did not make it. We were 2 weeks old when she passed away. She was born, before she was born, she was diagnosed with a condition where there was too much fluid around the brain. I forgot what the condition is called, but so when she was born, she was pretty much a vegetable and she had to be hooked up on machines. Um, January 14th, my parent or she took her last breath because my parents made the difficult decision in taking her off of life support because back then they didn't have the technology that they have now to keep them a little bit their lifespan a little bit longer than they normally do with that condition. Um, there are two types of twins. There are identical twins and fraternal twins. Most of the time, or fraternal twins are the most common ones, and you see that quite often than identical twins, which I did not know that. And then what I also did not know is that it can skip a generation. However, that is kind of a myth, and the mother actually carries the twin gene. And when the mother can pass that along to the father, but the father cannot produce twins. They can, however, pass that gene over to their daughter if they do have a daughter, and she is most likely able to have twins or may have twins, depending on if that mutation in carries over. A couple of facts about um, identical twins. Well, one of them is the in order for it to be an identical twin, there is one embryo or ova, where that one sperm goes into, or however you want to say that, and that one splits into two and pretty much copies and pastes everything, so they are pretty much the same. They every genetics, every gene marker, everything, all of it is the same. Their appearance are exactly the same. You can't really tell them apart. Um, the only thing that can differentiate them is their behavior. Although they might have the same specific skills, one twin may not be. For instance, if they're both athletic, one might like soccer and one might like basketball. So their environmental changes can change their behavior with between both twins, and that is one of the best ways to get to split them up or do the whole color coded. I've known a lot of parents who have color coded their twins to tell them apart. Um, More things about identical twins. Twins do develop during the first through 13 to 14 days. Some say 13, some say 14 days. There are actually three types of identical twins. The mono, they share the placenta and the same amniotic sac. Monodi, they share one placenta but are in two separate sacs. And then di, they separate placentas and separate sacs, which those ones are mistaken to be fraternal twins. But then if they do any kind of like genetic marker looking into their genes, they can determine whether or not they are actually identical twins. Um, so fraternal twins, these are when two ovas are fertilized by two different sperms at the same time. They share half genes. So they're half and half. They're pretty much 50-50. They don't share the exact same genes. Their appearance may be different. They may look the same, but you can closely look and they might have some difference between appearance, like different color eyes, different color hair, even possibly different color skin. And in rare cases, these twins can have two different fathers, depending on when um, things take place. Some of the things that I really interested in looking into is just how rare twins are. Only 32 to 1,000 people are twins. There are most common in different ethnicities. For African Americans, you can see that they are most common in that ethnicity, and you will find twins in Hispanic and Latino very rare. Um, what I thought was really fascinating, in some states, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Jersey have the highest rates of twins, and New Mexico had the lowest rates. Mothers who are over the age of 45 have more twin births than mothers under the 24, just because during that time they ovulate a lot more and produce a lot more eggs in that time. And from what I have gathered in my studies during my research is that more people who are studying twins are finding out that a lot of our behaviors and a lot of our um, who makes us who we are is influenced by our genes and not just um, environmental. Some other facts about twins during their development stages is that one twin is always bigger than the other just because one of them gets more nutrients, just depending on the placenta. My twin, she was bigger than me. I was the smaller twin. I was also known as the miracle baby because I was the smaller one, and they I was dead when I was born, but they revived me, and the doctors were pretty shocked, and they called me the miracle baby because I would should have been statistically the one who didn't make it. Um, the lower birth weight twin usually delays psychological development. And most of the time, by the age of 6, that gap usually narrows. Sometimes it's not always the case. And a lot of times, there are some cases where the smaller twin does not catch up to their bigger twin. But that low rate or birth weight can cause delays in the psychological development. I thought that was pretty interesting, and um, it was pretty cool. One person that I found during my research is Dr. Nancy Siegel. She is a professor and a director of Twin Study Centers at Cal State University in Fullerton. She has a lot of different books around, and she she is a twin herself, so she was always fascinated with twins and twin development. And she did multiple studies on twins. Especially there's one study where she worked and compared or found cases where twins were split at birth because they were adopted, and these twins found each other, and when they found each other they found out that they were living similar lives, but they were apart. And it's crazy how that can happen. Um, but she also made a founding that identical twins not are less alike than people think. For example, for my case, my twin developed a disease, but I didn't. And so she was really fascinated about how if identical twins or twins are completely the same copy, why does one twin um, develop something, a disease or anything that impacts their life, while the other one is completely healthy? But she did also find that genes do play a role in identity, and that's one of her studies where she found um, that out by finding all of these twins who were split up and met, how similar their lives were to how they wear the rings on their hand, to the type of jewelry, to the type of people they date, and just to the type of person they are. Um, but she also found that environment does play or have an effect on their behavior, just like everybody else. These are a few of my references that I found my research in. And Dr. Nancy, she's was one that I found really fascinating. And it's really nice to see that I'm not the only one who has been fascinated about twins and just their development. I wish I could find more about certain things because I have lots of questions, but that is what I had to find out, or what I found out or at least what I could. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week.